Let's design the Galactic line, and let's talk about piloting. Now, in my first tech demo, you may have noticed that the piloting was really rough, and that was no good. You had to, move the mouse a lot if you had a sluggish ship or your frame rate was low. Of course, you're familiar with that from Kerbal or Space Engineers. If you have a sluggish ship in those games, it's a real pain in the butt to ever do anything with them. That's not really viable for me because you can move at any speed. I'm currently running in slow motion, which is like half a second per second, but I could run in warp speed, which would be, a day per second. So I needed something that would always react precisely to your mouse movements, and I added this glowing reticle. This reticle allows you to set up where you want your ship to go by moving the mouse, and it acts the same regardless of your time acceleration. So it should give you a pretty easy control regardless of how fast or slow you're going. And if you want, you can just tab over to someone else and set up their reticle. There's nothing keeping you from doing any of that stuff. But let's go ahead and accelerate time a little bit. Of course, this is also something that the AI should find very, very easy. Much easier than trying to calculate out turn vectors and stuff. You just set this reticle in the correct direction. I've also integrated all of the vector stuff, so if we turn our throttle up, you can see that blue vector and that yellow vector. The blue vector is our intended motion, the yellow vector is our actual motion, and you can see it automatically updates even if you're not in control of the ship. So that little fighter craft has a yellow vector because it has an actual velocity, even though it's intending to go nowhere. The purple is what our maneuvering thrusters are trying to do to get our yellow vector and our blue vector lined up. Notice that the maneuvering thrusters never try to fire backwards anymore. They leave that up to your main engines if you have any. If you don't, then they'll do it. And that means that you'll save a lot of fuel. And here we're just going to stop. So this is a little fighter. I haven't polished any of the part components yet or anything like that, so he's a little bit sluggish, but not too bad. The reason I say he's a little bit sluggish and then show him whipping around, he's a little bit sluggish for a tiny fighter with 4 maneuvering jets. He's mostly engine. Oh, his ion thrusters are not very powerful. Oh, no, wait, they are. It's just that we have a max speed set of 20 meters per second, which is fine. Let's lower those landing gears and land this thing. Oh, we're still pretty far above it. Now, as before, WSAD don't turn your ship, they cause you to strafe, but now you can see the vector that you're strafing along. Now the ships are much, much easier to control. Now this guy, he's got a lot of power. He's very, very spry. And that's because he's got no weight. He's just all engines and a jump drive. But he goes from 0 to maxed out very, very fast. It looks like we have an error with some of the mapping because he's not updating his speed in the corner. That's fine. I got lots of bugs I've got to fix. Now you see that these maneuvering jets are firing pretty much continuously. I'd like to figure out a way to fix that. They're not actually firing continuously. What they're doing is they're doing tiny little adjustment burns, but it looks like they're firing continuously. In honesty, they don't even need to do those tiny adjustment burns. I've got to figure out the best way to prevent that from happening. So there's definitely some polish that's needed, but you can see how much easier it is to control these ships now. Let's go ahead and ram this guy. No. Wow, he's heavy. So I know what you're wondering, just how heavy is this cargo liner? Well, we can actually look over in the corner and take a look. Let's see, cargo liner, the Starbuncle. Its weight is in its rigid body. 20,500 space pounds. And he is not very fast. You notice that the carbuncle here has several different kinds of engines. I want to do a video about the different kinds of technologies you can put in your ships. For example, those blue engines are ion drives. They fire something like xenon, and they fire it at nearly light speed, so they don't really use any of it. It's mostly just electricity that they burn. The yellow ones are reactors, they're just standard rockets, chemical rockets, and you throw propellant in there, but they have a very, very high output and a very, very low amount of electricity used. And we'll watch these maneuvering jets desperately try and slow us down here. This also lets you know how fast you're moving in the depths of space when you can't see what's going on. There, we're stopped. So I'm definitely going to be releasing this for your fun use, probably Saturday, but I'm not going to be releasing it now because I still have some bugs to work out, like why the speed isn't displaying properly, and a couple of other details like that. Anyway, let me know if you think this piloting is viable or if you have any instincts about it, but mostly this is just an update video.